Hi, welcome to Resilient Now podcast. I'm super happy you are here with us today. If you're going through anything painful, anything hard in the world, this is why we have this. So hopefully you can meet somebody on this podcast, one of the speakers, one of the interviewers that has gone through what you're gone through, and they're on the other side of it. Um, I'm very excited to present a speaker. Her name is Reina. She's going to be here with us tonight. And I'm going to tell you how I met her in a minute. But first, let me say, hi, Reina. How are you? Thank you for being here.
Hi, Mama. How are you? Thank you for
I'm so good. Good. I'm so happy you're here. This is wonderful. So, Reina, I always like to start the podcast with what does resilient now mean to you?
as far as being an entrepreneur.
However you want to, whatever take you have on it. What does the resilient now mean to you? Just put it out there, whatever you think that means.
What I guess what I think it means
Mhm.
is um, being focused and having dreams and sticking to it and become anything you want to be. Nothing. You can tell yourself that you might not be good at something, but when you find your niche, you can be pretty great at it.
Yeah, with resiliency, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah. Just
stay focused and consistent.
being consistent. Absolutely.
Perfect. So I have to tell everybody how I met Reina. So I was in Chicago for a few events and I was with my friend and we were in her neighborhood and Reina has this great bakery. And we walked in and there was pictures of her on the wall. She's been featured in the newspaper. She's been featured in the news. She's a bit of a hero in that area. She's done some amazing work with some high school kids. She's helped she's just helped the community and she's a staple in that environment in that town. And you have to go there. There's so much love and warmth when you walk into that bakery in Chicago. So she'll talk more about that. But for now, I just want to welcome you to the podcast. I'm so happy I stumbled that day with my girlfriend in Chicago and walked into your shop because you are such a sweet, sweet woman and you have give so much light. So the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Well, my name is Reina from Reina's Cakes. I'm the founder of Reina's Cakes here in Humboldt Park. I mean, it's just an exciting. I love my story. It's very different. It's not. It's how I started. I've always wanted to be. I always wanted to have my own business, but I'll start by where. How did I get to where? How did I get to where I did? I decided to be an entrepreneur. I was married, went through a divorce, was married 25 years. My kids were grown, and I said, I'm going to go back to Chicago, kind of start a new life since I went through a divorce, a new chapter in my life. And when I got there, I said, when I got back to Chicago, my mom and dad passed away. And I said to myself, oh my God, I said, either I could stay in this rut and say this is what my life is now, or say, you know what, make a difference and matter. Do something with my life to show that just because I went through a hard time or things in my life, I could still make the best of it now, present time. And I remember as I looked at myself and said, you know what, I want to make a difference. And I want to show my kids that doesn't matter what age you are, you can become whatever you wanted to be. And I remember when I decided to be an entrepreneur, I've always wanted to have my own business. But life takes its toll, life changes things, and sometimes it gets us off track. And so when I said, well, I want to start my own business because I was tired of working retail. I was tired of just being a number. I was tired of being that if I made 100 cakes, they wanted 200. If I made 200, they wanted 300. If they wanted 300, I'd make 300. They wanted 400, just never satisfied. And I said to myself, bummer, if I'm going to kill myself in retail and out there in the world, why not do that with my own business and do something that I love and find my passion? So when I decided to do that, I said, well, but how do I start a business without any money? We don't start businesses because, afraid of fear and fear to fail or no hay dinero, no money. So I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I know where I live on North Avenue, California, near Humboldt Park. I said, well, I don't have a car, I said, well, I'm starting from absolutely nothing and from scratch. I said, I know what I could do is I could get me a little carrito. But my biggest fear was to be in debt, owing the bank any money. And I knew no matter no matter if I'm successful or not, they want their money. So I said, well, I could do it by little. Like I said, I could buy me a carrito, get it painted, and then got it painted. I got an umbrella from India And I started little by little. I had a friend. One day I was working and I was just really just was in like I just you once you're doing what your heart desires, you have peace in your heart. If you're never if you don't have that peace in your heart, that means you haven't found your spot, what you're supposed to be doing. And I remember I was working at a bakery and I was like I was just trying to feel that this is not what I'm supposed to do. I just never fit, if that makes any sense. So I said to myself, well, I called a friend and I told her, I said, I didn't want to continue to do retail. And I said, I was tired of where I worked, made me feel like I was inadequate. Been a baker for many, many years. And I was just tired of feeling that they didn't appreciate that. So one day I called a friend and I said, I left my full time job and said, you know what, I can't do this. I cannot be mistreated and stay in a place because I need to work, but be unhappy at it. So I called a friend and said, hey, I don't understand why I just don't have any peace in my heart about what I'm supposed to do. And she said, well, I know. And I'm bawling my eyes. I go, well, how do you know? Well, please tell me. She said, you know what? God has to take you out of your comfort zone to do what you're supposed to do. And I mean, what do you call it? Like a little light bulb turned on. Like, duh, of course, you know. I said, but how do you do that without no money? How? And she says to me, you know what? She lives in Oak Park. That's about a half hour away from me. And she says to me, you know what? I'm gonna stop by your house, and I she must have drove. I mean, she must have flew because she got here in 10 minutes, and she gave me a card and says, "But I don't want you to see it until I leave." I remember coming up to my stairs on the second floor, and I remember her saying to me, "Don't open it till I leave." I go upstairs, and it was $50, and it said, "This is my first investment. Go get you some business cards and go do what you're supposed to do." You know, and I'm like, and I didn't have a car, so I walked everywhere. So I walked to Office Max, bawling my eyes. I said, "This is so ridiculous. I don't have no money, but I'm gonna go start my own business." But it was my desire. I just wanted it so bad, more than I wanted to breathe. So I said to her, I walked and I got the cards done. And it was the best decision I made. And I know people would say, "But don't leave your full time job if you're going to be an entrepreneur." I was already at the bottom. It was the middle of COVID. I said, and I
Mm,
was so unhappy at my job. And I said, I just refuse to stay there. You know,
mm.
why stay in a place where you're not happy? And then
It's
when I
true.
decided to do what I love, my whole life changed. It was like I found my purpose. And I
So
remember
what did you do? Tell us. Tell us.
I said, I'm going to go buy me a little cart. So
Okay.
when I bought a little carrito, I said, well, I can paint it. I could put a beautiful umbrella, order it from India, got an artist to paint around it. And she painted all these different beautiful cakes around the cart. And I said, and little by little, I started selling cakes to make money to get my first license, like get my food sanitation license, get my peddler's license, my vending number. I mean, little by little.
And
And
this is in Chicago, right? You have this is in
Chicago,
Chicago.
in
Okay.
in the city, right in
Mhm.
Humboldt Park. So what I did, my first day was Mother's Day, 4.5 years ago, and I remember scared to death, knowing nobody, and just trusting God that He was going to help me sell my cakes. Now let me tell you something. It wasn't easy because I didn't know anybody, but I'd push my cart through the park, and every weekend, every chance I had, rain or shine, I would push that cart. And let me tell you, one day, before I got my carrito was being prepared.
Mhm.
And I remember it was cold, and this day changed my life. I remember going out. It was raining and cold, and I was out with a cooler, going through stores and trying to get people to buy my cakes. I remember I had gone out for 4 hours, and my daughter calls me, and every time my kids call me, we always FaceTime. So that day, I didn't pick up the phone FaceTime, and she's like, "Hey, mom, why did you FaceTime me?" And at the same time was my pride because I didn't want her to see me in the rain and the cold walking, trying to sell my cakes. And she said, "Mom will FaceTime me." And then I said, and then I did. And she says, "Mommy, it's cold and it's raining. What are you doing outside?" I had my cooler. And I said, "Man, I'm just having an awesome day. And I'm out selling my cakes. And so when I get home, I'll give you a call." I remember I hung up with her and I had been out for 4 hours and sold nothing.
Mm.
And and then I went out for 2 more hours. And I remember my last stop. My last stop, I sold 5 cakes. And I realized I am so glad that I didn't quit.
Hmm.
How bad do I want something? And I was always very positive with my children. I always wanted to make sure that they knew that they could become anything they want. So I had to push my carrito. And as they, there was my times where I get discouraged, but I learned to encourage myself. I learned to know that if I wanted something really bad, I was going to prove something. First of all, it's very unheard of in the middle of Chicago for a Latina woman to push a carrito through the whole park. And so I said, and I was making a staple in my community. I said, I want to make a difference. And I wanted to show the women or people that want to be entrepreneurs, doesn't matter how old you are. I started, it was 50 now or never. So I pushed and pushed that cart through the park. And little did I know, but I always made goals. I always told myself I'm going to get carritos all over the city. So my first year anniversary, I got another cart. And I'll tell you, this is an awesome story about how I got the carts. Well, this is me. Once
We have to get to the store too. Don't forget, we have to get there.
to the store. Yeah. So
Yes.
my next, when I got the carrito, I remember that I said, "Oh, ye of little faith." I said, "No, I need to get me maybe a part-time job, just in case." And I remember getting a job for 2 weeks, but it was God's providence because when I went to work for this place for 2 weeks, that's where I met the guy with the carritos, and he
Mm.
have a conversation. He goes like, "Yeah, I got some in my garage." I said, "Oh my God, take me to see him." And so when I saw them, he said, I said, "Well, you sell me one?" He goes, "Well, they're not for sale. I sell paletas." I said, "You don't understand. You got to sell me a cart." He goes, "But they're not for sale." And I said, "Please, it'll be the best investment you make." He sold me one cart, and I said, "And I'll be back for the other one." And so then every year, that was my dream, is to get another cart, get them out in the city. And then my goal was in 3 years to cut a ribbon.
Mm.
Years I was going to cut a ribbon. Do or die, I'm going to cut a ribbon. But you know what? My journey through everything, all those steps of being successful in what I do, it's like my second carrito. How did I get my second cart? My children called me and said, "Hey, mom, we want to. We just sent you some money. We know how you are about our money. You don't like our money because I always wanted to teach my kids. I didn't want to depend on them for them for my success because I wanted to
Mhm.
prove to them that they could do it on their own and mom could do it without their money." And so I remember the day that they called me and said, "Hey, mom, I know you've been talking about the carts, and we don't care about what you think about our money, but we just sent you $1,700 to buy the other cart. So that would be my second cart." And you know how you buy something, they sell you money, or this is for shoes, this is for pizza. Mine for
Yeah.
the kids said, "Hey, mom, go be great." So I had to be successful in what
Oh
I
my God, it's beautiful.
did. And so then the most amazing thing was that little by little, as I was pushing through the cart through the park, I started to meet all kinds of people. And I had people bring groceries to my house. People believed in me. Just little by little, God provided a car. God provided everything I needed once I trusted Him. And I always try to encourage people, especially I now mentor young people.
Hmm.
I'm a place where it's a safe place for the teens. I'm near Clemente High School here in Chicago, and there's schools all around Humboldt Park. But little did I know that my little place would be such a staple in my community. Like I will
Mm.
never forget when I was ready to cut my ribbon 3 years later. Um, from knowing nobody to when I cut the ribbon, I had over 400 people outside my door
So
waiting.
this is the store you got. So
Yeah,
from the carts you went to the store is what we're trying to explain to people so they know what they mean by ribbon. So.
yeah. So ribbon is when I cut the ribbons for my brand new store. And what was
Hmm.
beautiful, I've been there a year and a half, and just it's so life changing because who would have thought from a little cart through the park, just making a living like everybody else, that God would use that story to influence a whole. They call me the cake lady of Humboldt Park. That I've made a name for myself. And I see those young people giving them a chance and giving them hope and saying, "You could do it. You could do it." I tell the kids, they come into the shop, "Don't ever tell me you can't," because I,
Because you did. Because you did.
right.
That's right.
And I
That's
said,
right. You did it, so you can tell them that. You're in a great position to tell them that. And you help so many high school kids, and you are such a sweet lady, such a sweet lady. So one of the things we do in the podcast, when we come a little bit to the end, we talk about what is your top gratitude. Tell me what your top gratitude is right now.
my top is my biggest gratitude I have is that I'm so glad that I was consistent, whether I sold cakes or not. I was
Hmm.
in the same spot, whether I sold a cake or not. And it was just that consistency that people saw every week, that no matter rain or shine, I was there. So I'm just glad that I didn't quit, threw in the towel and I got discouraged because I got out on weekends and sold nothing and said I was such a, and I tell myself what a joke from this little come selling little cakes when people at 100 degrees want paletas and want ice
I
cream.
want ice cream because I walked into your place for ice cream, not for cake, and then I met you.
And I go,
So that was funny.
yeah,
That was so funny. So
and that's the idea. The goal was to have the carrito so people can still stop by and wonder what the heck I had in there. Because you
yeah.
notice it still had the little bells.
Oh my God, that store is so, so nice. And everybody who
I
works there is so great. And thanks for giving back. Thanks to giving back for the kids and having a store they can come and talk to you and gather there. And, I remember when I was in high school, it was always nice to have a place to come that you feel safe and with adults that were safe. And you are an inspiration to them and so much more, so many people. And are a resilient woman. So thank you for being on the podcast. Everybody, please stay resilient. Please check out the website and stay resilient now. There's the Reina's Cakes. That's her shop. All right, go visit her in Chicago. Bye bye, everybody. Until next time.
thank you.
Bye.